Hello again, book lovers, and this instalment brings you a biography of Genghis Khan. But wait, the title isn't finished. It continues, and the making of the modern world. So in fact, Genghis dies about halfway through this, and so you get the stories of his immediate successors, and right at the end of the book, the last dying embers of what were the Mongol clans. It's by Jack Weatherford. It's a good read. It's perfect for somebody like me who wanted to know something, but a little more than something, about this vast empire of which we know very little here in the West, and find out who was this guy. Obviously, it's a biography, that's why we read them. His portrayal subsequently was for a while that of a great Khan, something to be looked up to, whereas in later years, when it suited the politics of the time, they became the horrible-faced, rough-tongued Mongols. So the story as itself, the biography, is just fascinating. There's a lot of raiding of tribes to get new brides. There's a lot of score settling going on, and in fact it was one of Genghis Khan's great achievements to unite these warring tribes, and once they were united they became the massive force that we can see just from the map of where their empires reached. But they were responsible for fostering trade between East and West, for example. They were open-minded with regard to religion. They kind of didn't mind what religion you practiced, and in fact they only turned their backs on Christianity very late and adapted Islam and Buddhism, and then finally just Islam. But there were Christians among them. There's a fantastic description of Father Carpini, who goes over to try to tell these unbelievers the true word, and a lot of them are Christian already. This comes from Georgia and Armenia, by the way, which were conquered by the Mongols, but allowed to continue the Christian religion and proved to be quite faithful vassal states. So there they are, celebrating Christmas in a very peculiar way, according to this 12th century friar. Wherever there's a celebration, there's an arak, fermented mare's milk, one of their favourite tipples, and most of his descendants seem to have succumbed to this alcohol, and others, because at one point there's a sort of four-branched fountain which gives us mead from the honey from Persia, gives us wine from the Mediterranean, from the grape, also gives us the arak from the milk, and the one other that I can't remember. Oh, you'll have to read the book. It's full of stuff like this, by the way. The silver tree that Kublai Khan puts up in his Chinese enclave, which becomes the Forbidden City, which I didn't know. This was later taken over by other people who used it as a Forbidden City more after their own manner. What happened with Kublai was that he was really trying to assimilate with the Chinese, but in the end he just thought, well, we'll have a little bit of proper steppe life in the middle of Beijing, which obviously has since then, under many names, been the capital. So they would camp out in their big tents and romp around on horses, etc., etc. There's a kind of tension there at the beginning. The original push of the Mongols was against these civilized people who they looked down on. I think Genghis Khan entered one city in his life. He really didn't like being in between walls, and he felt a little pity for the people who had to live enclosed with all these supposed luxuries. He, as a great Mongol, was more fond of galloping around the steppe on his horse and sticking to the original Mongol religion, which was the eternal blue sky. I like that as an idea of something to worship. When they went down to China, for example, they got to a certain point on the plain where they became ravaged by diseases they hadn't encountered. The old story, but in a kind of mirror image to the other invading armies that we're used to. The Mongols would attack in the winter, and they would need pastures to stay out all summer with their horses. Until later. Anyway, you can see I've been learning a lot of stuff from this, and that's exactly what I wanted to find. A little bit about the birth of what became modern China, the fascinating encounters of these people when they see the world from their point of view, looking west, 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 to these very peculiar people that put castles up in the mountains. Very peculiar people that bless the body of Christ and then eat it. They didn't like anything to do with blood or any bodily exhalations. I'll leave you to contemplate what that might mean for various facets of the lives of the Mongols, because I'll finish up by saying this is well worth a read. 300 pages. It's a story, it's history, it's backed up by facts. The secret history of the Mongols, itself written in the 12th century. And it leaves you with a much broader vision of who this supposedly monstrous Genghis Khan really was.